what does it mean to help someone understand who they are?
That's a great question. To me, it's that unobstructed neutral zone that we all know is in there. It's that feeling tone space that we settle in on. And sometimes we'll be stronger with that settling in. Sometimes it'll waft in here and there, amidst our emotions or our thoughts. But because I'm highly empathic and intuitive, and I could, see different things also through the chart and all the ways that I do my work, I call it out. I reflect it back to them. I can pinpoint it. I hone in on it. I bear witness to it. And then I hold the space for that until it becomes more solid of a space within them. And so then they go out, and it's almost as if it's kind of they're recalibrated energetically to it and consciously to that space. And then they're able to work with it more. Because really, the whole part of any type of spiritual practice is to actually carry that work forth into your life. It isn't necessarily just about a retreat or, a tool or something that could make bad things go away. It's about integrating this deeper truth of who you are into all the areas of your life. So I help with that.
Awesome. And I like that the output is a practical implementation of it,
Yeah.
i.e., your day-to-day life should be different after doing this.
Yes.
And it's like a simple example, like you'll get someone who'll be like, I can do marketing for you. It's like, okay, what are you selling? Brand awareness. Okay, how do you measure that? And they're like, oh, well, it's just brand awareness. So, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. Whereas someone will come along and say, right, we're going to increase the hit rate on your website by this amount, and we're going to get the click through to this, and we're going to increase revenue by blah, blah, blah. To use a business analogy to what you just described, it's so important to have a way of actually getting tangible results. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there in the, like, even to use the phrase intuitive healer space, that would be like,
Mhm.
oh, don't worry, we'll just improve your brand awareness.
Right. I don't know. Yes, I know it's out there. You're right, Jake. It's out there.
And
Yep.
so what would be, what actually, rather than giving you a broader question like this, to use myself as a specific example, a story I'd love to talk through today, which I think gives great context to what you have the ability to do,
Mhm.
is we did a session where you take my birth date, time, and location, and you're
Mhm.
able to map who I am against a set of, it's basically wisdom, right? Or
Right.
knowledge.
Mhm.
And take us through that process that we ran through, and the crazy story about how in a past life I was a pastor and I had a
Mhm.
connection with my now daughter. We'll get to that later, I think. But
Okay.
when you take someone's birth date, time, location, like, what are you able to help them understand?
Right. Well, what I love to say about astrology is that, first of all, it's thousands of years old, and just about every culture on the planet, well, that I'm aware of, I'm sure there's others as well, but they had some form of astrology. And it's really just patterning of numbers based on where everything is at in the sky. And I don't want to minimize it down to that. There's, that's a piece of it, is understanding the patterning. And then there's the interpretive portion, like who I am as an interpreter. But essentially those stars, this ancient wisdom has given us the archetypes and the patternings to learn from. And so when you're born, you have a birth chart. Whatever the sky was doing that day is yours and yours alone. And a fun way to look at it is that it's really a reflection of you in numeric format, maybe based on how you're standing in the earth looking up at the heavens. And so nobody else has that but you, even a twin per se. There's something a little bit different about them, maybe a minute or two off. Things could be very similar. And then the soul comes, and that's a little different as well. But there's everything that's in that birth chart will remain with you from birth till the end of your physical existence. And everyone you meet, everything that'll happen will be ignited by the current sky as you go along. So everything is there. And so when you learn how to read this patterning and you learn about the triggers that happen along the way, it's crazy bizarre, and I try to find holes, and I've been trying to find holes in it for years. But it's just profound how proficient it is in sharing the blueprint of your life, your personality, your needs, your trauma, your family life, your partners, your work, all of it. It's right there.
And so the birth chart is in a way a map,
Yep.
and you can look at certain behaviors. Would it be fair to say, like, when you take someone through a birth chart, what is the output of that experience that you're trying to give someone?
Right. It depends on what they're asking for, because you can read a chart till the end, till you don't stop, because there's so much there. And it depends on, too, like you have all these different angles in your birth chart. And then we have today's sky. We match that. And so there's different things happening at different times. But when I first read for somebody per se, I will take a look at some of the main characteristics, like their sun sign. Like, when is your birthday, right? Your sun sign is
I'm June, so Gemini.
June. So Gemini, right? And then sun, moon, and rising. Those are what I call the big three. And the sun kind of gives you an idea of how you handle, how you look at the world consciously, like the main light, because the sun is the light.
Mhm.
And then the rising sign is kind of how you play on the earth plane, how everything's oriented based on you. And it was what planets were rising at your birth, how the world sees you, how kind of how you interact with the world, because it's, the earth and the sky came together at that rising point. And then there's the moon, and that has more to do with what you need when nobody's around, what your emotional needs are, because the moon is not a luminary. It doesn't light up. It lights up when the sun reflects on it. And so it's very subconscious. It reflects our subconscious needs. So those are the main three. And then I also look at the nodes. I mean, I look at so much, but
Mm.
the nodes will tell you the strength and the karma that you're coming in with, the south node, what you've already mastered, what you're coming in with, what you want to let go of. And then the dharma is where you're headed. So, a lot of times people come in, they'll say, well, what's my soul purpose? Or, how do I see the world? And sometimes just reflecting that back to them. I know even myself, when I look at my chart, when I first started to learn to read it properly, I was like, oh my gosh, that explains everything. And you could put down maybe so many feelings of, I'm, why am I like this? Why do I feel this way? Why am I drawn to certain things? It's amazingly all right there.
If anyone listening hasn't seen one of these birth charts, they are really complex. Like, when I
Yes.
look at it, I'm like, what is that?
I know it's a lot to take in.
But
Yeah.
that's where the skill of someone like yourself comes in, because you help to actually understand the information.
Right.
Like anything, right? You could be looking at a balance sheet of a company, and it's like, I don't understand what that says. Whereas someone will look at
Right.
it and be like, don't go near that thing, or, ooh, that looks really interesting.